All right, welcome everyone to the Northeast Regional Advisory Council meeting. This meeting is being held in person in Vernal, Utah, as well as being streamed live on YouTube. We apologize, it sounds like the video is not cooperating. That's sometimes what technology does for you. This public forum allows you to express your opinions and ideas on wildlife management in our state. This RAC considers your feedback on the proposals before us today and reports them to the Wildlife Board. The Wildlife Board, not the RAC, is charged with setting wildlife policy for our state. Wildlife management is complex and sometimes it's emotionally charged. We all have ideas and opinions about what is best for Utah's wildlife. It's why we're here today, and that's a good thing. We encourage those who want to express their opinions at today's meeting to fill out a comment card. I think there's some in the back as you were coming in. And we'll take those when the time comes. We expect those in attendance to respect the people who speak, especially those who hold views that don't align with their own. Respectful behavior helps facilitate efficient meetings where RAC members can listen, digest, and address the concerns, ideas, and proposals being presented for consideration. Disrespectful behavior, including booing, yelling, cheering, or laughing while someone is speaking. You can help maintain a respectful space by referring to people by name instead of descriptors of their physical characteristics, demeanor, or gender. If this behavior occurs, the RAC chair will remind attendees to be respectful. If the behavior continues, the applicable individual or individuals will be asked to leave. Lastly, please help reduce distractions during the meeting by putting your phone on silent. And if you need to take a call, we ask that you step outside. And we'd just like to welcome and appreciate everyone for coming out tonight. It's great to see a full room of passionate individuals. So we're looking forward to the meeting today. I'll introduce myself. My name is Eric Major. Finally showed up for a meeting. Thanks for those that have pinch hit it for me. And we'll introduce the RAC. We'll start down on the left side with Natasha.
I'm Natasha Haddon, and I'm representing the U.S. Forest Service.
Adam Nielsen, Watchable Wildlife.
Jordan McMahon, Bureau of Land Management.
Jake Huber, Sportsman. Grizzling, Sportsman.
Dwayne Davies, Agriculture.
Nathan Crable, Public.
Colin Crozier, Agriculture.
I think you would also like to just thank and welcome those from the DWR that are here tonight, and also Bob Christensen from the Wildlife Board. I think Kent Johnson's on as well online, and a few others. We will go ahead and move. The second agenda item is approval of the agenda and minutes. That's an action item.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Motion by Natasha. Is there a second?
It.
Second by Grizz. Thank you. Okay, I will give there will be 4 more items. These next items are informational. Oh, sorry. To have a vote just by raise of hands. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Oh, vote is unanimous. Thank you. So I will do a Wildlife Board meeting update and summary. So the Wildlife Board met December 4th in Farmington, Utah, and had the following agenda items. After approving the agenda, and the minutes, they moved to the 2025 through 2027 hunt tables and season date revisions. The motion was made by Justin Oliver, seconded by Chris Robinson, and passed unanimously. Looking at there was a motion to ask the division to look at the Antelope Island Memorandum of Understanding and adjust both season dates and hunting structure. This motion is to be placed on the action log. The following motion was made by Bob Christensen and seconded by Justin Oliver and passed unanimously to approve those hunt tables and season date revisions. The fourth item, Clint presented that from our region here, Book Cliffs Bison Management Plan. That motion was approved to approve the Book Cliffs Bison Management Plan as presented by the division. There was some amendments to R 657-42 natural disaster relief. That was also approved. A motion made by Chris Robinson, seconded by Paula Richmond, and passed unanimously. The item with the CWMU and landowner permit recommendations. There was a motion that was made by Paula Richmond and seconded by Bob Christensen and passed unanimously with one recusal from Chris Robinson to approve the CWMU and landowner permit recommendations as presented by the division. Also, the Black Hawk CWMU and Hiawatha CWMU variance recommendations were also passed. Motion made by Justin Oliver and seconded by Ryan Fouts. And that was accepting their variance recommendations as presented. That summarized that board meeting.
We're gonna call pause. Cameron,
You bet.
can you pause give us a stop
Brief
recording for a
pause
minute,
and we'll
please?
try the video.
And we're gonna try the video again.
Okay, thanks. No.
You're live again.
Thank you, dear.
Okay, thank you. All right, I will turn the time over to Miles Amberg for a regional update.
All right. Bonnie, you bring up the PowerPoint?
Hold on.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, this will be a pretty quick presentation tonight. Interest of time, but quite a few events coming up this winter. The first one's the Christmas bird count at Ouray National Wildlife Refuge. That'll be this Saturday at 8 a.m. Anybody interested in participating in that? Talk to Tanya. She's hooked you up with that. So, ice fishing seminar that'll be held here on January 8th at 6 p.m. The rest of these are pretty much contingent on ice. Well, the Burbot Bash will be held whether there's ice or not. That'll be January 23rd to the 25th. Registration's open for that right now. So that'll be another big event this year. What we don't know is, who knows if the Snyder is going to freeze this year. If it will, we'll have a seminar on the ice on February 7th. And then the Macatak Lake Trout, that's held up in the Wyoming end of the lake, but that'll be February 20th to the 22nd. And again, that'll be one that'll be held whether it's open water or ice. But so a lot of events coming up this winter. Projects, just a few highlights. We just recently installed 2 new chucker guzzlers in the book cliffs. As warm weather has allowed us to continue to do a lot of field work. So 2 new chucker guzzlers put in out there. Able to just finish up or in the process of finishing up 950 acre bullhog project out on Winter Ridge to take out some of those pinyon and juniper and do some reseeding work in that. So that's a good thing about having a mild winter up to this point to be able to get that wrapped up. Everybody's just really busy developing habitat project proposals and things for our WRI process. So the deadline for those proposals will be January 9th. So it looks like there's a lot of good projects being talked about, and so we're excited to see what we can implement. And then again, with the warm weather, we'll be able to do some maintenance on guzzlers, different things out in the book cliffs. So a lot of good work. Big game stuff. We'll have our next round of deer meetings that's coming up on January 13th in Roosevelt and the 14th in Vernal. What we'll be discussing with these is kind of the status of the deer herds here in the region. And then we'll talk about predation and disease at that meeting as well. In the future meetings, we'll probably dive more into some habitat and other issues as well, but that'll be the focus for these next meetings coming up. Our mule deer captures on the South Slope went well. Different deer, depending on where they spent the summer, have different body conditions. A lot of the North Slope deer were in really pretty good condition. Some of the deer that wintered on the South Slope were probably not as good, just kind of a lot of drought on the South Slope this year, it seemed like. So But our biologists have been wrapping up deer classification and things are looking pretty good overall. The buck-doe ratios are within plan objectives. Looks like a couple of units are going to come in slightly above objective. So that's good this year. Doe fawn ratios are as high as 77 fawns per 100 does, which is really encouraging. We can keep those doe and fawn ratios up in the 60 per 100. That'll result in good population growth. So we should see some deer growth this year on most units, unless some sort of a terrible winter somehow happens. But right now, looks like we should have good survival. On our general season deer harvest, it was at 48% statewide this year. So that was pretty high considering, most average years. It's a higher harvest ratio by most hunters throughout the state. So that was interesting. And then the new private lands bull elk hunt that's been held this year came in with over 60% success rate. Most of our general season bull hunts are like 10% or something like that on our success rate. So pretty high success if those people had permission or a place to go hunt bull elk on private lands. So anyhow, I think that's all we'll cover for tonight in the interest of time, but I just wanted to give a shout out to Mark Chinawith. He was our watchable wildlife rep here on the RAC. He has since just recently relocated back to where he's from, and so he's left the area, and so we'll be looking to refill his seat on the RAC with another watchable wildlife representative. So anyhow, that's it for me tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Miles. All right, we will move to the fifth item. So this is just a reminder, this Utah Cougar update. Chad Wilson's not here, but we'll welcome Darren Du Bois to the stand. And this is an informational item. I know there will be some comments and questions, but there won't be an action or a vote tonight. So Darren, is there anything you'd like to bring up from other meetings?
I don't really have anything to add to the presentation, so I'm happy to take questions. And as you mentioned, I'm sure we'll have some discussion about some other things. So let's go ahead.
Yeah. Well, if I got my order straight, I think we'll take questions from the RAC first, correct? Questions for Darren from the RAC.
I'll start it off. I got questions on, people ask me some questions on that cougar study that in the state there for the 6 units and whatnot.
Mhm.
How did we pick those units? Why did we pick those specific 6?
I'll start with the caveat that I wasn't part of the planning on this, and so I don't know. I'm not deep in the weeds on this, but I do know that typically when you're designing a study, you want to match a unit with a control, and so some of these units, most of these units. Let me start over. The bottom line on a lot of this stuff is that in law, the director is required whenever we detect that predators might be a top-down influence on mule deer, that we take some kind of management action, and that's been in place for quite a while. It's been 5 or 6 years now, maybe even more. And so a lot of these units, I'm like scatterbrained tonight. So the division has thousands of deer collared. We got a ton of data, and one of the things that we started looking at with this deer survival data is that on units where it looks like adult doe mortality to lions rises above 7%, that those herds just don't seem to be able to grow. That's enough of an impact that those herds won't grow. And so what we did is we're looking now at units throughout the state that meet those criteria, and in those cases. We need to address predation, we feel like. In conjunction with that, one of the sort of the standard in predator management for over the years is that predators are rarely, if ever, the influence of declines in prey populations. They tend to cycle and balance out. And with the data that we're getting and the things we're seeing on units and on some units in the state, we feel like there's pretty strong evidence that that's not always the case. We have a couple of units, the cache and the manti, where we actually did increase cougar harvest, and we saw deer coming out of the summer in really good body condition, but really low adult doe survival. This is on the manti, for example. So it didn't seem to be a habitat issue, but lion predation was really high. When we increased lion permits on that unit, we saw that survival kick up. And so what we're proposing here, sorry, this is a long-winded answer, but I think maybe it'll help with the discussion moving forward. What we're hoping to do with this is get a definitive answer with some hard data on as to whether or not a prescriptive reduction in predator numbers, in this case lion numbers specifically, can actually help you grow your deer herd. And so there will be a lot of, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of variables that they'll be looking at, habitat being a key factor, weather, but predation will be one of those. And so one of the valuable things about this will be if we can get some real good definitive answers on some of these questions, it really could affect our management strategies going forward. And so I think it definitely is going to be an important thing to do. So Grizz, that was a really long answer, and hopefully I helped to clarify things once I got my brain in here.
Well, I appreciate it. Where did the request come from for this?
The division. So again, by law, we need to take some action on some of these units. I think all of these units fall into that category. And we decided, you know what, if we're going to have to do this anyway, let's collect some data. Let's put a grad student on this and let's get some answers.
That was actually my other question. Is it going to be like a BYU?
Yeah. So we're partnering with BYU on the study. We're working with UDAF to predator specialists on some of the harvest. The goal will be to really try and get a reduction in those populations. And this was something the division initiated. It's something we wanted to, again, if we're going to be doing these kind of management actions, let's couple that with a study. Let's get some data and answer some of these questions. We're in a really good spot. We've got a lot of animals on the air, more than anybody else in the West, probably more than anybody else in the country. And we're in a good spot to actually say, if you reduce cougar permits, you can release a deer herd, or if you increase cougar harvest, maybe you don't. And so both of those answers are important.
A question, Darren, maybe clarification. So the one unit that's in our region is the Wasatch East unit, right? And these, could you maybe rattle off the targeted units for that study?
So it's, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, Monroe, Boulder, Zion, Pine Valley, Wasatch East, and Stansbury. I think I got it. We talked about pairing units. So Stansbury, for example, would be paired with the ochre, really similar units. And so that sort of thing, not all these units are the same. And so they were chosen for different reasons, but they were all considered and talked about.
You said these are on units that have higher cougar predation already, right?
That's my understanding, yeah.
This is maybe a hard question to answer, but would it be the case if the division didn't act on this that potentially legislature would? Or
I think, well, I don't know how to answer that question. That the law requires us to, so it's definitely something that we're going to do. And it's not just the law. We're not just doing it because the law says we are, which is obviously important, but also, we feel a responsibility to manage responsibly. And so if we think that we know there's an issue, we'll manage populations accordingly.
I just got one question. So I know that like that wasn't part of the presentation for this RAC meeting.
Right.
But will the results of that be part of the RAC process? Will that be informative, or will that be something that we have to dig into ourselves? Will those kills be in our harvest here? Will they be separated out? You know, how will we determine, you know, if this is working and what it's doing?
I think, so obviously initially, well, I guess short answer is sure. I mean, I think it would be absolutely willing to come back. You know, we when we went to a 3-year cycle on bears, and with the changes to cougar management, we agreed, you know, we'll come back annually and just kind of give an update, which is what the presentation was initially. So I don't see a problem with updating that. Again, first year is going to be hard to say much, but we can certainly tell you what's going on.
How's predation measured?
So what we're doing is we're collaring deer on each of these units. And then when that collar, they're GPS collars, and they take, I think it's every 2 hours, you know, they're taking a location. So we've got a pretty good handle on where these animals are. When that collar lies still for 8 hours or some amount of time, it'll send us a mortality signal through email. And we'll send a biologist or student, someone to get out there and collect that, and they'll document how that animal died. And so we have a really good database of cause-specific mortality on these deer. So
And what percentage of deer are collared in those units?
it probably depends on the unit. It's a small percentage, but it's a statistically valid number. Yeah. So and it grows over. It depends on how long the unit's been part of the study. I think we do 20 or 30 a year, and that builds on itself. So I couldn't say for each unit specifically, but it's enough that we should be able to tell generally what's going on with that population.
Got a question. Excuse me, I got a question. So this 371 that was harvested for 24-25 statewide,
Mhm.
how many were harvested in the Northeastern? Is that out there?
You'd have to look at the units, which is available on our website, but maybe someone from the region. I'm looking around. I don't know if anybody's ready to look, but we could get that for you, Dwayne, if you want to know.
It'd be nice to know what
By
in
region.
our region is being harvested.
Okay, yeah.
If it's 371 for the other regions, how many's harvested here?
Yeah, and I don't know the answer off the top of my head, but we certainly could look unit by unit, and someone could get that for you later, Dwayne, if you want.
Okay, thank you.
So is this study still in the early enough stages to tweak how animals are harvested, that type of deal? Because I know there's been a really huge concerns with houndsmen and having dogs killed in
Mhm.
sets with snares where they're baited with meat hanging there and whatnot. I think there's actually been 2 dogs that's already died in that. And that's actually where I think how the houndsman actually found out about this study was because a couple dogs had already got caught and snared. So is it early enough, or is that not even an option?
I don't know that I can answer that question for sure, Grizz. I'm sure we're always happy to talk to folks and see if we can adjust. Typically, the methodologies are going to be similar to what you'd see on a livestock situation. So I did talk to UDAF and I did talk to UDAF and they're looking at methods. So.
Do you know like the primary method that will be taken for this study? Is it going to be with hounds? Is it going to be a combination?
It's probably a combination. I think they'll use all the tools in the toolbox. Yeah. The objective is to get those populations down.
Any other questions from the RAC? Okay, I think now we'll move to questions from the public. And yeah, just state your name and there's a mic there in the center. But you can come up to that one.
Figure it out.
Questions from the public. We will have comments for the public too. I meant to say that.
Alex Lawson, representing the Utah Houndsman. On the WRI 7707. So I guess just clarification, is it just off the collar numbers, whether going to 7%? Make these units into these?
Yeah, there's a little bit of nuance in there. I'm aware of that. And again, I don't know exactly how each unit was chosen. I wasn't part of that process, but yeah, that's part of it.
So most of these units are under 100 on the predation.
I'm not sure. I'm sorry. I don't
Like
know.
100 kills. So it's gonna be like less than 5 to put these into a collar study.
You know,
Like 5 does killed with the collar would be
5%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, 7, but it's gonna be like
Right.
5
Seven's the threshold. And we tried to look at it quick the other night. And I think all of them fall into that category, but I'm not 100% sure. So,
Okay. And then it's take any cougar female kitten, anything out of the tube.
yeah, that'll be the,
Thank you.
Thanks, Alex.
My name's Jared Mon, represent myself. I was just curious, on the does that are collared, are they mainly collared out of the same herds or different herds?
we try to get a representative sample across the unit. So they'd be captured by helicopter and then collared.
I was curious if, you know, you got 4 collars in one herd of deer, you got one line smacking the heck out of them if that would.
Yeah, no, we try to spread them out because we want to know what the real number is. So yeah, we make an effort to do that.
And then, is there any studies showing, you know, are collared deer more targeted by lions? Is there anything that stands out more to them like that?
It's a good question to ask. I'm not aware of anything like that, but you know, as you're doing a study design, you want to think about any kind of factor that might bias your study, but I'm not aware of anything that would indicate that.
Thanks, Jared.
And good troopers, thanks.
My name is Jason Binder. I have quite a few questions tonight. Darren, can you tell us what the highway mortality rate is on deer?
On deer, it probably depends on the unit. I don't have those numbers, Jason, off the top of my head. But for each of these units, we would have a number. Yeah.
Do you know how many deer are killed on Highway 40 between Duchesne and Heber?
I don't know.
What is the average age of lions being killed right now?
The average age, last time I looked at it was for 2024 season, including that, it was 3.3 average. It's a little, you know, you go back a long way. I mean, that's a long-term average around 3, like, you know, last 20 years. So it's kind of in there. Those are the numbers I've seen. I don't know if I don't know what it would be for, you know, the most current year.
What happened to the programs of building deer crossings and high fences to keep the deer from getting run over?
As far as I know, we're still really actively looking at that when we can. Those cost a lot of money, and so you need to get in early on those. But yeah, those are still a high priority for our habitat folks in all the regions.
Didn't we last RAC, we say there was funding for highway fencing between Duchesne and Heber that they were going to go? I thought that was kind of one of our announcements we had.
I recall that being announced. I don't know for sure,
So I think
but I do remember. Yeah, it's definitely a high priority. Yeah.
I know that it's from Duchesne to Britland for sure. That's been proposed all the way. So I don't know if I'm through to Heber or not, but I know it is. And it was KSL and everyone.
And do we have any information back on the CWD studies that were done as far as deer on Wasatch East that have CWD?
I don't know a lot of details on that. I don't know if maybe the region has some insight into that. I know we've been looking at it. We continue to sample and try to get a prevalence. And CWD is a high priority for us as well. That's definitely concerning.
And where is the funding coming from for this project?
Right now, the Wild Sheep Foundation and SFW have contributed money to it.
Did they initiate the,
No, this is something the division's we've been talking about this for years. You know what? It'd be really good to have one final answer to this question because we hear it both ways. And again, if we can identify one way or the other, it certainly could influence how we manage lions and deer moving forward.
so this study's already been done one time on the Monroe. What did that study prove?
The Monroe study was focused on coyotes as like aerial removers, but they did look at cougars too. And I believe the results there were, they didn't detect an effect from the cougar stuff. They did see on the coyote side that if you removed enough, you would see more fawn survival from year to year. But I don't think the cougar, my memory of that is that the cougar side was, it didn't show an effect. In other words, on that study at that time, lions didn't seem to be contributing to it.
There was 40 lions killed on that stuff. And the deer herd never did.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jason.
Eric Bacon, 43-year hound dogger, represent myself. My question is, you guys come up with the idea, what, 3 years ago for this study of butchering them, let everybody just shoot them, and what is that? Is that not work? So now we're gonna go further
No,
to pay this?
the change in management was a law change that allowed for trapping and using hunting permit. That's something that changed in was a legislative change. And so that's what the law is. One thing that we haven't done is actually throw a grad student at this, collect data and try to definitively answer some of these questions. So that's what this is.
But in the sense of, shouldn't that have been done 3 years ago when we changed it to
Probably
pretty much open? So
yeah.
now we're 3 years behind
Well,
on a study.
Well, not on a grad study. I mean, we said when this changed, that we're gonna look at this over 3 years and kind of see how. So we've been collecting information, but this is going to be a targeted, controlled study that looks at the question of manipulating. I mean, it answers the question that was being reacted to at the time. That is, if you kill enough predators, does that help your deer herd? And I think that it'd be really nice to have an answer to that question and be able to say, absolutely yes, absolutely no, absolutely in some of these circumstances, but not in others, maybe on some units, not others. So that's what we're looking for here.
I mean, I hunt the Wasatch East a lot. I live right in the middle of it.
Sure.
And I've seen what's happened over the last 3 years. I mean, there it is. I've hunted 43 years and maybe I'm blind anymore.
No,
I can't see a track. I'm not seeing
Yeah.
nothing now. And so now now that study, what is your okay goal? Let's see, you guys study these and you take this 2 years and literally, which the trapping that they're able to do is above what any other trapper can do. They can do it differently. Their laws do not abide. So in 2 years, 1 year, the lions are this. Now there's one. There's going to be zero. So what will the reply be of like, oh, well, whoops, and the deer haven't increased? How many years do you think the lions will be to where they're ever even back? Deer can jump back in a hurry compared to a lion.
Yeah, lions can bounce back pretty quick too, based on what we've seen in some studies throughout the country. They have, they can produce a lot of young and they also move between, we had a lion that went all the way to Teton. And so, they'll move around. So, what the dynamic across the state is, we tend to see in areas that get heavily hunted, populations really, really reduced. And I'm sure that's what you're seeing. But there are other parts of the state that just aren't, this year they are, but most years they're just not accessible in the wintertime. And those become source populations. And those can be, you can have those on a unit. One canyon just doesn't get hunted and the next one really gets hit hard. And so I'm sure there'll be some units where, yeah, you'll probably see an effect that lasts longer term, but in others, on the Cache, for example, you got Idaho and you got private land, and they were consistently taking lions off that herd year after year after year, and it was filling back in. So I don't want to sound like I'm sure you have way more experience. I know you have way more experience
43 years.
on that than I
I've
do.
been
And so,
smart enough to get out yet.
we'd be happy to hear, your experience on that. I think that could really help.
I just more of a comment on a complaint, but I think this is going to be it's not a study. This is a massacre to eliminate a lion for the rich. Thank you much.
Thank you, Eric. Any other questions?
Go ahead, Barry.
John Bear here with SFW. Darren, I've heard a lot of concern about why maybe the study didn't go through the public process before. Can you maybe give us a little background on how these get put together? And
Yeah,
maybe why
I think-
the RAC and the board wasn't included at an earlier point?
Sure thing, John.
Then the other question I have for you is, once we have the study and have the data, I mean, whether it goes one way or the other, I mean, how committed is the division to really put that into play, no matter which way it goes? I mean,
Right.
how bound are we to put that into our management plans?
Thanks. So, typically we don't take, when we run studies, we have an internal process where studies are proposed and we have a committee that looks at those and et cetera. Especially if it involves division funds, but the key to study design is to unbias your data. And so, you can't have a public process be part of a study design. You've got to look at it eyes wide open and figure out what the factors need to be: roadkill, weather, habitat, lion predation, disease. All of those things probably need to be, you need to be looking at all those factors. You need to be collecting data on all of that. And then when you churn through that data at the end of the study, typically we'll do a 3-year, data collection phase, and then there's a couple years of crunching the numbers. Then you're confident that you've got a statistically viable answer. And again, it just doesn't lend itself to, public process is great but for these kind of things, we need to get some scientists into a room and make decisions about what needs to be in it in order to get a valid answer. The worst thing you can do is spend a whole lot of money, and at the end of the day, you can't definitively say one way or the other what the answer is because you didn't choose you didn't collect the right data. And then the second part was, what are we going to do with the results? It's always a desire of the division to use the best data we've got and to make management decisions accordingly. So, and I mentioned before, John, one way or the other, the answer to this will definitely impact how we make decisions moving forward on lion management. Whether lions are taking lions can help deer or taking lions doesn't help deer. I think we definitely want to be thinking about both of those potential answers. And so that'd be our commitment to definitely look at that.
Name is Rodney Smith, local sportsman. So I'm just going over, trying to watch all these videos, the previous racks, the past few nights. I'm trying to get some clarity. So you explained to me that one of the methods of taking these lions is use of hounds, right? Hired hounds.
Could be, yeah.
What are you gonna do? What are they gonna? The female goes up with the kittens in the tree. Did you say?
The intent, my understanding is the intent is to reduce populations. And so in order to reduce a population, you got to take females.
So, take females and kittens.
kittens. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you also said you were going to keep the pelts. Am I wrong on that?
Yeah.
Did you say something about pelts?
Yeah. You'd have in our contract with them, they salvage the pelts, and we do have an agreement where they can auction those off and use the funds for their program.
So all the animals are going to be harvested. Are going to keep all the pelts.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Thanks, Rodney. Any other questions? All right, this one where it was informational, there wasn't any electronic comments, correct? We'll move now to comments from the public, and we have these comment cards.
Anybody else have a comment card for this item?
Yeah, bring him up. We'll go ahead. Okay, Rodney, we should just let you stay up. I might start with you on top of this pile. Okay, Rodney Smith.
Prepared for that.
Okay, I'll shuffle the deck.
I'll try to remember.
Should've just stayed up
I know.
I shouldn't have to do my name again, right? You guys.
Rodney Smith,
We're
I'll
good
say
there.
for
So, and who are you presenting this for again, Chad? Yes. Chad, okay. He owes you and your wife to get card
Big
for
time.
Longhorn Steakhouse. Because you've had a hell of a week, haven't you, buddy? Okay, so our biggest concern right now is, and I've said this before in the previous rack and last time that this happened to mountain lions and trail cameras. And everybody that's sitting up here should be upset. There's no public process of this. Again, we're back doing this again behind closed doors, and it's upsetting. It really is. I just don't think this is the right way we're doing this. And, and we're saying that, there's no research done. And well, why is there Clint Meekin did a study, and we're saying, hey, this is a study's been done. It's like, well, okay, we have a study, but, and John Bear said, hey, this is a social study, and we're saying, hey, we got a study out there. Well, let's use it and look at what Clint Meekin, put it all of efforts in. It wasn't coyotes, it was mountain lions. So, there's a lot of things I had to say, but I just think we're going about this the wrong way. Yeah, I might have to get back up here when I calm down a little bit. Let's go with that. Because everybody, all the guys behind me are here for a reason. We're pretty upset over this. I mean, we care. And we care about, there's certain people here, all they care about is lions and bears. Well, that's bullshit. I put a lot of money in for other states. I put it for bighorn sheep. I put it for mule deer. All of us do. We care about wildlife. Thank you.
Thank you, Rodney. All right, I'll try to give others more warning. We'll say Travis Jensen, if you're ready. And then on deck, Alex Lawson.
Good evening. My name is Travis Jensen. I'm representing Utah Wild Sheep Foundation. I'd like to thank the RAC for volunteering their time to support Utah's wildlife and allowing public comment on its important matters. Utah Wild Sheep Foundation is supporting and providing funding to the DWR and our predator control study because we believe wildlife management should be scientifically based. The study will provide the DWR with data that will allow for better management of Utah's deer, sheep, and cougar populations, regardless of the outcome of the study. There are a few rumors and accusations floating around the internet that I would like to address. Utah Wild Sheep Foundation did not have any influence or input respecting this study. That includes the units chosen, the method of take, the utilization of government trappers, or the duration of the study. Those decisions were made entirely by the DWR. So the question, why is Utah Wild Sheep Foundation supporting a deer study? 3 of the 6 units identified by the DWR are sheep units as well. And university level postgraduate studies have shown a significant impact on bighorn sheep populations resulting from cougar predation. On the Zion unit, bighorn sheep, we lost 25% annually to cougar predation. That population has decreased from 800 animals to less than 350, which is a 64% decrease. And permits have been reduced from 10 to 2. Typically, these types of population declines in bighorn sheep are a result of disease events. However, there's not been a single sheep mortality caused by disease verified on the Zion unit. If you look at sheep numbers statewide, there's not a single bighorn sheep unit in Utah that meets current population objectives. Talking numbers, there's less than 5,000 sheep in the state of Utah spread across 30 units. That means the average size of of our populations on a unit is less than 200 animals. The reality is that due to limited population size, sheep cannot sustain significant mountain lion predation to even maintain current populations, let alone increase numbers. As a result, Utah Wild Sheep Foundation supports the DWR in their efforts to better understand the impact that cougars are having on deer and sheep populations in an effort to more effectively manage those populations in Utah. I'd like to make some personal comments as well. I've been involved with numerous projects in partnership with the Utah DWR over the last 5 or so years related to sheep management. The Zion unit is an example. It's a university-based study. It's published, seeing up to 24% mortality on an annual basis. We had a nursery herd in Tabiona for desert bighorn sheep. In 14 months, there were 31 lions removed from an 1,800 acre facility. When we reintroduced bighorn sheep on the Mineral Mountains, we had immediate lion predation. There were 21 lions removed from the minerals in that first year. So personally, in my opinion, the data that the division is publishing is not consistent with my opinion of what the population of mountain lions are on the landscape. But that's my opinion. And we all know what opinions are. Everyone has one. I support this study because it's going to remove personal opinions, personal perspectives, personal experiences from management. It's going to provide the division with hard data, one way or the other. And we're certainly willing to live with it either way. A lot of respect for the houndsman community. I personally hunted multiple lions, harvested multiple lions, harvested bears in Utah over dogs. The last permit I drew in Utah, I spent 17 days chasing dogs. I understand it's a lifestyle. I understand the passion they have for their hounds and the time and the effort that it takes. There's absolutely, it's unequivocal. Right? It is disappointing to me, however, that as fellow sportsmen, we can't have the ability to agree to disagree on certain issues. We're never going to see eye to eye on all issues, but we are fellow sportsmen. And at the end of the day, can't have common ground, then when hunting is removed, it's going to be everybody. And I think it's important. I think that I'm respect for fellow sportsmen and accepting the fact that we're going to have differences of opinion, but being able to manage that in a respectful way. Thank you.
Thank you, Travis. Alex, and then Jared, you're on deck.
Lawson with the Utah Houndsman. We strongly disagree with this study just because of the mortality it could cause on hounds or mangling of hounds and whatnot. And then if we're going to speak on population, there's by DWR state less than 1,100 lions in the state. If we open up 6 units to a full-on manslaughter, what's going to be left there if they take out another 200 lions on these 6 units? Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. Jared, and then Eric, you come here next.
All right. Jared, local houndsman, been doing it for 13 years. I just want to thank all the RAC members and our DNR. We really have probably the best DNR in the state. I've been around the state quite a bit hunting. And even watching all these RAC meetings, it's pretty civilized in here compared to the South and everything else. No, you guys.
Meeting's not over yet.
That's true. Rodney might get back up here and cause some shit. I don't support it. I don't know. I think anyone can go in and, you see a female in a trap with her kittens there and kill them kittens. It's kind of a monster in my eyes. With that being said, even though I know there's a lot of people that don't show up because they don't think our voice matters on a lot of these subjects. But he says, we're all sportsmen and even meet in the middle somewhere, whatever drainage, whatever mountain they're really got these lethal traps set up on. I'd like to see signs set up. At least, houndsmen could get their hounds shut down going into those canyons, or at least know coming up into these canyons that there is lethal, snares, conibear, stuff like that out. Also, that being said, houndsmen, talked about that might be part of, that study to bring houndsmen in. Kind of curious to see what houndsmen come in. It's just, these big name guys, or if there'll be a list put out for some of us smaller name guys, they're going to wipe all the cougars out, at least give a few of us that have never killed a lion a chance to get one. Yeah. Oh, and that's, another thing I have a big problem with is with the signage, not only just us houndsmen, the public, the outdoors in Utah is huge for the public and everyone like that. A lot of people have dogs, whether it be a lab, be a husky, be a healer, anything like that, any of them could get trapped in one of them bait sites and get snared up. That'd just be horrible. There's a lot of people that run hounds to say they run hounds, and then there's people that live it and people that love them. And all my dogs are like family to me. And other than that, I would like to see, I don't know if they have doe hunts in those areas, but I'd definitely like to see, if we're going to take a cut on our lions, I'd like to see a lot of them doe tags dropped out, doe hunts, these extended archery hunts that are either sixed. A lot of these guys that don't want to shoot a 2-point, and the last day they smack a doe. So there goes a lot of our does in that part. Other than that, I think, thanks everyone for coming, and I love seeing this full room. It seems pretty empty in all the rest of the RAC centers, even though there's a lot of houndsmen online posting posts, saying show up, show up. It's good to see some people did show up. But other than that, thank you.
Thank you, Jared. Eric, and then John, you're on deck.
Kind of a comment question. I honestly wonder if SFW and the goat sheep, if they wouldn't have said, all right, we'll pay for this, where the study would be. Like I said, in 3 years, we've opened it up to pretty much killing them. I know there's been 13 right around my house killed. Personally know that. I've never killed a lion. I run my dogs. I love my dogs. So I wonder where that'd be. Question, maybe he could answer this. He said he killed 31 lions in a unit, 21 in another. Did that make any difference? Did any deer or any of your sheep flourish? After them lions were took out of your units, did that?
On the nursery herd, when 31 lions were removed in 14 months, the last 6 months that the sheep were in that facility, there was not a lion mortality.
Okay, so, and some people say that, we're all sportsmen. Yes, we are, but wiping out the lions to save the sheep is not quite what I see as being that. And to the DNR, thanks for all you can do, but my opinion, we totally need to watch. I drive Strawberry and Daniels every day. If I started counting, that should be took out of the deer herd right off the bat of being sold for tags, and it's not. And I, help from you, the RAC or whatever, of when these things come up, that we need to be more part of that. And it just thrown in our laps all of a sudden, we're fighting to get it changed or back. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Eric. John, and then Jaron Hansen is up next.
John Bear here with SFW. I know it's rough when I've been on both sides of that when it's your unit that's part of the study, and for a few years it can make it rough to cut a track. But I think the thing we look forward to is at the end of it, when we have data that we can look at, where we can put together a management plan and say that we have pretty definitive idea of what's going to happen. I've been going to these meetings for 30 years, and we've argued about this every year, and it would be nice to put this to bed to the best of our ability. So we look forward to being on the other side of this 3 years and having that data. I have a lot of confidence in our division. They're in a no-win situation more times than not. And I feel like no matter how they run this, there's going to be people on both sides that are probably going to be pretty critical. But, obviously we support it. We look forward to being on the other side of it when we have the the data put together and we can look and see it, you know, it works here, it doesn't work here, we can lighten up here, we might need to turn the heat up in this area, and hopefully it works better for both sides once we get that data in place. So thank you.
Thank you, John. Jaron Hansen, and then Jason.
Jaron Hansen, I'm representing the Utah Farm Bureau. The Utah Farm Bureau supports the division's effort to work with other organizations to collect more information on the effects of cougars on wildlife and livestock populations in Utah. We feel that accurate data is needed in order to make sound management decisions for predator control, and are eager to see how reduction cougar populations affect livestock depredation as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Jason. Is there any, while Jason's coming up, anyone else on this subject that wants to make a comment?
Is livestock going to be part of the study as well, or is this just deer?
As far as I'm aware, we're looking specifically at that predator-prey relationship between deer and lions. So, yeah. I'm sure we may collect some data related to that, but that's not the objective.
My name is Jason Binder. Pretty sad day in the state to have to come here and listen to this, where there was absolutely no public input, was total behind the door process. We know where it came from. Started 30 years ago when SFW initiated harvest objective. 30 years, we still haven't saved any deer. We're not going to save any deer with this because we're not addressing the problem at all. On average, between Duchesne and Heber, there's 5 deer hit a day. That's over 1,750 deer a year that are run over on the highway. You start multiplying all the recruitment into that over 3 years, you're going to increase your deer population by well over 10,000 deer. There was also got some information back from San Pete County in 2017. Sorry, I'm a little shaky. 2017, there was 2.1 million pounds of roadkill turned in. 2018, 1.3 million. 2019, 1 million. In just January of 2020, 11,700 pounds of roadkill turned in. Our highways are the problem. It's not the lions that are causing the problem. It's people and management. The other thing we got to address on the Wasatch East unit is urban development. We have a full-blown subdivision going in right above Soldier Creek Dam. Big $1 million houses. You've got Tiger Woods Golf Course coming to Heber. You've got Benlock Resort. You've got all these resorts where these deer are supposed to live. These people don't want deer and elk in their yard. They don't want them tearing up their golf courses. So we're not even addressing the real problem one bit. Destroying one population to save another isn't science or proper management. We need to address the actual problem. And we really need to address the whole backdoor process in which our wildlife is managed. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Okay, at this point, we will turn time to RAC comments. So comments from the RAC. Yeah, do you need another chance, Rodney?
I think I better just keep cool over here. So,
okay. Thanks.
Actually, I have a question. Can I ask a question?
I think that'd be allowable.
Or does anybody talk about if this goes through? Has anybody said, hey, 2 years, 3 years, you know, sheep guys want 10? What is the study gonna?
So my understanding of the study duration is that it's a PhD level study, and typically those will be a 3-year data collection phase, field stage, followed by a 2-year analysis stage. So in terms of the study, it'd be a 5-year turnaround, and by field, the treatments in the field would be a 3-year duration. So collecting data, I mean, after that, all the data is collected and then they're going to analysis. So again, I don't know all the details. I wasn't part of the planning process. I'm just trying to
Excuse me, Northeastern RAC, we've lost your sound.
That was an internet thing. Can we be heard on the other side?
Yes, I can hear you now. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't hear any audio.
Christopher, you can't hear us?
I hear you, but I don't hear anybody from the vernal room.
Can hear us from the rack board.
Okay. That's us. I'm in the room, so we're fine. Continue.
Okay. I was just gonna say, Utah's in a place with the kind of resources we have and the investment we put into these callers to really get a definitive, we have the best chance to get some really good answers about this. And this really could change things if we can get a good answer whether or not this is a thing. What kind of treatments, is it more localized, that kind of stuff. So again, I think that's probably all I need to say about that. Happy to answer any questions.
I've got one question real quick. I can't
Can you
hear.
say it one more time? Maybe stand up to the
Yeah,
mic.
if you're okay. You could
No,
stand
okay.
at this mic too.
That's all right. That's all right. All right, back camp here. So they're talking about all these collars on deer. What about collars on lions?
We
Yeah,
did.
you guys are studying about the predation of deer from lions. But you really haven't been studying lions.
Yeah, we actually just completed.
How many lions are collared in the state of Utah right now?
60.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's how many we had. We did a study with USU. They were looking at kitten survival in lions. They're also looking at diet. We did a study on the Nebo, looking at scavenging behavior. That's something that's currently being worked on. They mainly on the Nebo, and I think they collared 30 lions on that one. So
Yeah,
we actually
30
collared
lions on the Nebo, but there's only 1,100 lions.
Yeah, I think people are misinterpreting that graph. So I think
I think Chad explained this in the presentation, but, that graph's based on harvested lions. So it's representative of, to the extent that people are hunting lions and taking lions, it's representative of that population. So if there's places in the state, there's lions and people aren't hunting, it's not included in that. It also doesn't include natural mortality. So if they get kicked by an elk and break their jaw and die. So the take home from that is the trend. Not the overall number. The number one, you know.
Right, I hear that.
Yeah.
But what about a deer that dies with the collar? You guys are more than likely, it looks like you're just blaming it on cats.
It depends on the unit. So I think there's 8 units where it looks like they fall into that category we talked about before.
Well, there's a couple different types of cats also. It doesn't have to just be mountain lion. Bobcats killing deer.
Yeah, sure.
You know.
And you know, and we've detected that on the study. We've had, usually it's a fawn on one of the fawn studies, but I've seen pictures of a bobcat killing a doe, like a yearling doe. You know? So definitely we do. Again, that's all in the mix. That's all stuff we need to think about.
I just want to try to.
Yeah, sure.
Larry, go ahead.
Right here, good. Oh, yeah.
If you can talk about.
Yeah, sure. Another question. I mean, it is what it is. They've already paid for it, so it's a done deal. I can tell you that in my observation in the past. But my question is, why are they able to trap, snare conifer bears where nobody else can? And that involves kids, my dogs, chickens, deer to get caught in these snares. Why are we letting them? I don't agree with it. I did totally agree with them paying for this and getting this study. It's not a study like you said, but it says right on there that they can do other means that other trappers legally cannot do.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I knew exactly all the methods. I really can't speak to that, but it's important that we're getting this feedback right now, because again, as this study moves forward, this is all important information to hear. And then, you know, we've got board members here in the room, we've got board members online, and they've been listening on all of these. So I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here to express your.
2 weeks ago, I had two different hounds within 100 yards in a snare.
Yeah, I totally emphasize that. I understand what it's like. I understand what it means to train dogs, and you definitely don't want that to happen. So again, we really appreciate the feedback, and I'm glad you all came to do that. Okay, thank you.
RAC comments. We'll continue with that.
I would assume that, and I hope this is correct, that once the data is collected in 5 years from now, and it goes out for implementation, acting upon the data, that would be a public process. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah, you can see any kind of management changes under the current law and rule would come through the public process. Yes.
Like I say, one thing, you guys that are here that are opposed to this, you guys are gonna be able to use this data too. So no matter what comes of it, it comes out, and you guys, shows exactly what you guys have been saying for years, that lions have no effect on deer. You guys are gonna be able to use it to your benefit as well. So take this from that, take that from this, and go on with that when it comes out. But you're gonna have a arrow in your quiver as well when that data comes out.
Yeah, I think it's awesome to see this many people in the room and this many people passionate about something. I've been on the RAC for a couple of years now, and I don't know that I've seen this many people other than one other meeting show up for anything. That's too bad that it's just an informational item, in my opinion. You know, I wish it was something that we were voting on, we were talking more in depth. And when I first heard about this in the first or second RAC meeting, whenever it came out, it really caught my attention. And I think that's why we've got people here and maybe not comments online. So So it's great to see, everybody passionate about certain things. I wish it was something we were voting on, and I don't quite understand. You know, I mean, there's lots of other variables when we talk about growing deer habitat, you know, weather, different things like that. And I don't have the degree that these people have that are doing this study. But I have to have faith in them and the division, that hopefully they'll take all that into consideration, that the study will come out, and just like Jake mentioned, you know, hopefully that the results, you know, will benefit both sides, you know. I'm not sure how that'll all work out, but I'm interested to see, and hopefully we get reports, and hopefully it doesn't just come out. Hopefully now it's been talked about in every RAC meeting, you get reports every year, possibly, or, you know, these numbers, that what they're killing is showed in those, you know, and I just encourage the board and those doing it, that they're, you know, sharing that with the public as well, so.
Hey, Eric, I got a legal question on.
Go to the mic. I'm the bossy one. I know.
You almost need a mic we could pass around, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so the legal question is let's just say this study gets done and over with, and it's in favor of towards, hey, all of a sudden, you know, this isn't affecting deer, you know, so the legal side of it is, what, does it have to go back to the legislature, or can the director say, hey, this didn't work out? Can we, I mean, is it not, does it have to come from the director that we can go back to limited entry on lines? How does that work with?
So
is it possible to go back to limited entries?
the answer could be both. What the law says right now is that all you need is a hunting license, and then you can trap it basically, and it's a year-round season. That's basically what the law says. So within those sideboards, the board, and they can set seasons. We could probably work it within that. Now, if we wanted to go back to limited entry draw type situation, then yeah, the law would have to change to allow for that.
So like Riley wouldn't have authority, like, hey, we could go back, because that, you know, that law is, director has, you know, a lot of authority. The director say, hey, let's go back to limited entry.
Yeah.
Some trophy lines. Let's make this a trophy line, man. Let's.
Yeah. The other thing that's in the law, the first law I mentioned about the director having to take action, is that we need to go back annually and report to the legislature on how this is all going. And they have pointed questions when we go do that. So it'll be a process, and we definitely have contact up there, but beyond that, I can't promise anything. But that just so you understand where
right now, dude. 5 years, we're gonna go back to limited entry. Let's do it.
I'll tell you what, you know, if we can get a definitive answer to that certainly helps everybody understand what we need to do to address the problem. So more information is better than less.
Thank you. My thoughts, I've had a lot of varied thoughts too. Just, I do agree this will be a really good data source, and I really want to make sure that we are looking at roadkill. I've asked the same question about roadkill, and the answer I've been given, and what I understand, is there's actually more deer killed by lions than what's being killed on the road. So let's make sure that's the case. Let's make sure they're looking at roadkill numbers. Let's look at the whole picture as much as we can, and put that the rumor mill to bed. I remember one time, I probably shouldn't have said this, it probably made someone mad, but there was discussion about not having very many lions out on the landscape. And I personally had seen 4 different elk carcasses with the different lion on them. So it's hard for me to judge too of what are the numbers, and that will be helpful too, because if they kill the second lion in the Wasatch East, then we'll know that maybe there was more than one, or maybe they only killed 10. And it's like, maybe the hunters and snares are just not finding the lions. And it's like, we really underestimated or overestimated how many lions, I guess, are here. And from what I understand too, anytime a deer collar goes dead, they're going out to find that collar and also decide what the mortality cause was as best they can. So I do feel like there's the pieces in place to really understand what the effect's going to be. I would love to have had, I definitely like what, Jared, you brought up of having a little more, or having a means to understand where maybe some lethal sets are set up. And I don't really like the idea of the bait. And I feel for you guys too, if that's a danger to hounds, that's something that would be helpful, just like we register bear baits, for example, like maybe doing something that allows you as hunters to understand that. And other thought too was, is there a way to allow a public hunter? I've been researching Idaho a little bit about going up there maybe to hunt a wolf. And I know there's groups that are paying, a bounty, so to speak, or a reward, or paying for your costs. Is there something like that that could be done or incorporated in something like this? A lot of ideas, and understand that there's a lot of moving pieces trying to put a study together. But definitely want to make my point of like, we do need to stay together. We do need to stick together, and having good data will help us do that, because I feel like when we get divided, like even the comments I just made, there's a scuttle around the room, because I've heard completely opposite of what was just said, or sometimes vice versa. But if we can have real numbers so that we all understand it, then we won't have that questioning or that difference of opinion. So that's my statement. Any other comments from the RAC?
Yeah, the comment. So through my life, I've hunted just like all you guys. I've line hunted. I've taken a lion with my bow. It was a great experience. I've seen a lot of lion, seen a lot of lion tracks. Now, granted, this was 20 years ago, but on the ranch where I preside, I see lion tracks that I've never seen in my whole life. So personally, this 1,058 lions that we supposedly have in the state of Utah is an estimate. As a cattle rancher, as a landowner, I still personally think there's too many lions. I feel for you gentlemen, because I've been with you, I've hunted with you. It's a great time. It's a lot of fun getting out and chasing a lion. But how many of you individuals have actually taken a lion, like the gentleman back here has hunted for 43 years, to help the Fish and Game to lower the numbers, to bring them into the medium? Think about that. Yeah, we don't want to kill kittens. We don't want to kill females. There has to come a point where our ancestors, our grandfathers, great-grandfathers, totally eliminated them for the sheep, cattlemen. So that's where I come from in ag, is I still personally think there's too many lions. I can go over on the river and I see a lion track in the middle of the summer in the dirt. There's too many lions. If you see them in the middle of the day on the roads in the communities where you didn't used to ever see a lion, there's too many lions. We need to think about our kids. We need to think about our livelihoods. Of course, it's your livelihood too as hunters and sportsmen, because it's your life too. You have a good time. I have a question for the sheep guy. You removed all those sheep where you had them and there was 31 lions killed. Where you moved them, was the predator problem there just as bad as it was where you had them?
I need to come to the mic.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, nice shit. So the second nurture herd facility is on Promontory Point.
I know that.
There has not, I think last year there was one total lion harvested
on that whole area is on the, it's not a CWU, but it's a landowner association. I believe there's only one. We haven't had a single mortality associated with lions or bobcats or coyotes at the new facility.
Thank you. So in my thought as a gentleman, I still think there's too many lions out there.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Jerry Kemp. We hear this from cattlemen and this and that and the other, and I've also grown up with cows and sheep and throughout my generations, but have you ever called anybody and said, would you come help me take this lion?
No, I haven't.
If there's that many lions, why not call a conservationist, a houndsman? I tell the division kill lions. They will call me and I'll go help them take control of lions. I don't know you and I should because I've lived here my whole life too, but I hear these complaints, but has any houndsman ever got a call from a rancher?
I take that back, sir. I did call. I did. And I said, hey, you know, there's a lion right here.
We need to.
And now, did they come? I don't know. Was he just passing through?
Did you give them permission to come on your ground?
Sure.
I mean, you can leave a list up, you know, I'll give you my phone number after this RAC meeting. I'm more than happy to come up there on that.
But that's my personal opinion.
Well, I've been
just
doing
like
this
you say, you know.
14 years I killed my only lion. I'm 46. Like, there's not the game. I hunted 5 days this week and not around one lion. And between 3 units. So you guys need to get out in the field and actually see what's going on. You've seen 4 dead elk. I haven't seen 4 dead elk on a lion in the last 3 years from a lion.
It would have been like elk that was killed and then a lion came
Right.
through like that next
I haven't
day or
seen
whatever.
that many elk kills in the last 3 years. Like, I
Was the one
spent
that
a
was-
lot of time out there.
Well, thank you for your,
So, I mean, if anybody's got a problem or private ground or a lot too many lions, I don't know one guy in here. I know a lot of faces. Like, if you need some help, we don't want to be divided. I hunt every game in every state. You know, I'm not opportunist, but we can't decimate one population, take care of another. In 5 years or 3 years, if the deer herd does not come up, how are we going to rebound? We're not going to have the lions back. You're not going to have more deer. I mean, why isn't there a happy medium? Why do we have to kill one species to find out? It's not legal for me to shoot a spike that's shorter than his ears. I've had one deer tag in 12 years and I didn't see a buck big enough to kill. Why is one law good for one group of people, but not good for another? I mean, why can we use cell cameras on traps? It's not legal for us to. We can't use bait. You know, we're trappers too. We're not just houndsmen. Why can they use other ways of take that the public can't? I mean, who justifies it? I've listened to John talk for years too. Like, you know, I looked up to John. You know, but it can't be one-sided.
and thanks for your comments. We probably better keep moving on. Is there any other RAC comments? No, this is an informational item too, so we won't have a vote, but I
I just
definitely.
want to tell everybody, thanks for showing up.
Thank you, Chris.
This is wonderful. Don't forget that when we're talking about bottom muscles or some boring thing. You know? So I appreciate it. And I like the fact that we're grown adults talking civilly on this. And I think that's what this whole process is about. And I'm pretty thankful for it. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other last comments from the RAC?
Yeah, just real quick. It's just to recognize, you know, the situation DWR is in here. They're stuck in the middle. I've heard really good points on both sides. And just to echo what everyone else is saying, I do think this input will matter, you know, even though this is an informational item. And just lastly, that the end goal of getting this data would sort of justify, hopefully, the means that they're using. So we have that information.
We're probably gonna need to cut this off where it's an item, sorry. Anything else from the RAC? Okay, thank you though, and let's continue the conversation, please. Let's remember this, come back again, let's follow up, and let's make sure that we're not just letting this go. Let's bring back, come back. I'm sure we will. Well, thank you. Okay, let's move on to item number 5, or sorry, number 6. Oh, we need to take a break.
No, it might be good.
That might be good. Then you guys could talk. Let's go ahead and take
We're
a
gonna take a 5.
5-minute break.
Mhm.
Okay, thanks, Sonia.
Mm-hmm.
Fun.
All right, welcome back. We'll call this meeting back to order. And we'll invite Darren back up
Thanks, Rodney.
for the Utah Fur Bear update. Darren's outside. He did.
Yell at everybody.
I apologize. I got through the conversation and I lost track. So, fur bear, that's where we are. Yes, I believe this is informational as well. And this is just, we're offering the maximum permit season date with no cap on bobcat tags, and then the other seasons just adjusted for the years. So pretty straightforward.
We'll start with questions from the RAC.
I got a question for you on how can we also already offer 6 permits on bobcat and you don't even have numbers and things for the 20 disc trappings?
Yeah, so one of the things that we did, when you look at the dates, so the plan has 3 metrics. Looked over and they're averaged over 3 years. And so, yeah, you're kind of a year out, but it doesn't shift, you know, 1 extra year isn't going to shift your average a whole lot. We felt comfortable when we made this change to sort of the management cycle, that we could go ahead and make that decision. And, you know, if for some reason that we'll catch it going down, but 1 year's not going to make or break us on bobcat harvest. That's thinking, to be honest, it seems like looking at the data for years now, the single biggest driver is pelt price. You know, pelt price is high, see a lot of bobcats. Pelt prices are low, they drop. So that's not the plan. Maybe we should have looked at that.
You don't trap, you're basing that.
God. I'm talking statewide in general.
Has the DWR ever looked at into, not requiring the fur bear license to buy a bobcat tag? So like people that aren't trapping, houndsmen per se, or people.
It's a distinction. I was going to say in code. I actually probably have to look at that. My recollection is that age requirement and the education requirement is in code, and similar to hunter ed. And so it's not just a tramp, you know, it's a fur bear license, so it's valid for those species that are listed as fur bears in the state. So you know, this has been brought up at a couple of their meetings. You know, people maybe don't want to trap them; they're going to use dogs or whatever. Good one. Now we could certainly. I don't want to commit. It's not my program anymore, but you know, we could look into that in more detail. But my recollection is that code requires that education for that permit.
So that it's not something that the wildlife board could change.
If it's just enrolled, they could. And off the top of my head, I don't know right now. I probably should have. My recollection is that it's in code, but if it's not, then the board could.
What would it take to change the code?
That legislation would have to do with it.
At the end of this, I'm going to make a motion to.
Yeah, we've had a couple of motions down for that.
I'll wait for the end of that.
How many of those trapping classes that we had statewide?
You know, the demand's a lot lower. I don't know the numbers, Grizz, but usually they'll have.
I've seen
you
two
can,
in the
yeah, you can do some online stuff. They usually have one in conjunction with the fur bear or the first sale, usually the convention. And it's just, you know, it's kind of supply and demand, but there aren't not nearly as many as hunter end. Yeah, it's a little bit more difficult.
Is there a chance we could get numbers of cats, bobcats, tagged, trapped out of like Una Basin or area?
Yeah,
it'd be nice.
We collect it on a county basis, so
It'd be nice to see that.
Yeah, I like that. Pardon?
Is that published?
Yeah, if you look on our website, there's a page of annual reports, annual harvest reports, and it'll have everything. It's big game, you know, cougars, bears, and fur bear. The fur bears if you want to look at, and it'll be they're current to the last season. So and that those go back quite a ways, back to the 90s. So you kind of see, and for fur bears, it's usually by county, not by unit.
Any other RAC questions? We'll roll to questions from the public. Any questions from the public on this item? There was also no electronic comments on this where it's informational. Any comments from the public on this?
I'm Jared. I've talked already. I've just noticed, I've been up here for 3 years now. I've noticed over 3 years, bobcat numbers have been dropping. You know, usually from Cut Canyon, usually find bobcat track pretty easy. In the last 2 years, it's been pretty difficult. I can talk to a few of the officers out, and they've asked me about bobcat tracks last year, and I killed one bobcat track all year last year. This year, they were just getting started. I haven't been out a whole lot. I have cut one bobcat track since for this year, but nothing like before. You know, they seemed a lot more plentiful before, but it's my observation.
Any others? I guess I should have looked at the cards, but I think that's it. We will go to comments from the RAC. Any comments on this? And then we will, this is an action. Oh, no, sorry. It's informational too.
I got a comment on the trapper, the trapping class. We haven't even had one here in Uinta Basin for, I think it's been 2 years now. I think that's a missing opportunity for youth, because I know there's quite a few youth around here that would take that class and like to even try to trap. I got kids that would love to, and I think we're missing the boat there on not having that class more available to people. And I've heard people that took the class and all they took was to run so they could run it with their lions. And I understand the reason why the class was probably put together was so that people didn't trap around houses and catch somebody's boodle and all that thing. And I totally get that, totally do. But there is a distinction between when you have to have a trap number. So why don't we have it for people who have to have a trap number versus a fur bearer license and that? And so I know Jake wants to make a motion on it, but I was going to make a motion myself to ask the wildlife board to look into ways to make that class more available. But I'll wait until if anybody else has any comments on it.
I'll have a comment.
Yeah, so I know I'm not, luckily, for me personally, I made the cutoff. I don't have to have that class because I like 1 year. So, but I have friends that didn't make that cutoff. None of us are trappers, but a lot of us go out coyote hunting and that, and would like the opportunity to go to bobcats. We sometimes occasionally call in. So, I don't see, I think there should be a separate distinction between, I don't see why there couldn't be a separate tag for people that are just calling or houndsmen that are using hounds versus the people that are trapping. So, but yeah, that's my comment.
I wanted to make a comment. Tanya Keeper, Sylvia Outreach Manager, different role right now. So we offered, I know for sure, I asked Shay, he offered 4 fur harvester classes last year. So we don't get a high demand for fur harvester, but when we do have 3 to 4 instructors in the basin that when we get the request, we put the class together and we are offering it. So I just want to make sure I make that clear. Like the outreach section and the hunter education and fur harvesters are working to get it out there because we do get the requests pretty often, especially at the front desk. So I just want to make sure.
I was going to ask, is that okay, Tanya?
Yeah,
What's the best way to make a request?
just come to the front desk. Yeah, come to the front desk. We keep a running list online so that myself, I can check it as well as the fur harvester education instructors. And so, yeah, that one, just let us know. Anybody can let us know. But and the point of having more instructors was because we were getting more requests for the classes. So it's not as many and they fill up really quick. Shane could talk to that if you wanted to, but and it's not as many kids as you get in hunter education, but we did offer classes. So just want to make that clear.
Well, I sure didn't see him online when I looked for him, so.
They fill up fast and that's the thing. If they fill up fast, then they're gone and they go off. So
I was just gonna add real quick before Clint goes, it is in code. It is required in code, so it is required to change. Go ahead, Clint.
Clint Sampson, wildlife biologist and undered instructor. One of the things, just piggybacking off Tanya, we are more than welcome to take more instructors, like more than welcome. Anybody can go through the training and become an instructor. I know Shay and I have been teaching classes for several years, and the last undered class I taught, there was 52 kids. And yeah, anybody willing to give up weekends and teach classes in evenings, like we will take you. So please, yeah, I think that's probably your answer. Thanks.
Thank you. Other comments? I've got a boy that wants to take it as well. Make some requests. We'll get a list.
Yeah. Make a request right now.
Give me the list and I'll make it happen.
We'll send it to Connie.
Thank you.
Okay, so this item is informational. I don't, sorry, I shouldn't read one. Any more questions or comments?
So where it's in code, if we made a motion for the DWR to look into creating a separate Bobcat tag that wasn't tied to the fur bearer license, could the DWR take that to the legislature and have that looked at?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I guess probably the best thing now, and what's been done in other racks, is maybe put this on the action log for the board and have us kind of look at all the details, and if the board wants us to come back with sort of a recommendation or what it would entail, we can certainly do that. And then at least it's documented and you'll get an answer back as to what the board feels like they want to do.
Okay, so Grizz, is there something that you would like to roll into this?
No, we can get more classes. Well, that's all. Tanya's kind of taking care of that one. So,
Okay. So I'd like to do a side motion to have the DWR look into creating separate Bobcat licenses that does not require a fur bearer's license.
Education.
or is it the class you want?
No, I would like to get away from the class completely. But I know a lot of people that just don't want to deal with class. Because they don't want to have nothing to do with trapping, and that's what it sounds like the class is most for, is for trapping. A lot of people don't have any interest in trapping, but they still want to be able to hunt a bobcat, and you don't need to be a trapper to hunt a bobcat. So, yeah, so this would be a separate side item for bobcat only, to be able to get a bobcat license that would allow you to hunt a bobcat either with like calling or with hounds, and be able to take a bobcat.
This case, what do we call that? Is it like the request?
Yeah.
Yeah, like Derek said, just a request to have a wildlife work with on that as well.
Yeah. We have that clear. Or?
It's mud.
Yes.
Any other discussion?
Or is any other discussion on what I got? Does anyone want to change what I've said?
Do we need to have a vote on something like this?
Yeah, or
For an action item.
yeah.
Push forward. Okay.
You second.
Yeah, so is there a second to move this request to have the DWR create a separate license that does not require, for bobcat, that does not require a fur bear's license?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Nate, great.
Second by Nate, thank you. All in favor, raise your hand.
Any opposed? One.
Opposed. So
Yeah.
how many do we have? 8 for, 1 opposed, right? Okay, thank you. If there's any thoughts or discussion?
I don't really think taking the bobcat tag out of the burglar license is really needed to avoid the class. I think it needs to be more of a don't offer the tag to those, or offer Bobcat tags. If you don't have it the class is only needed if you get a track number, is what I would say would be better. Because I don't think they'll ever remove the Bobcats out of the preferred. You always need a license for that. I don't think you'd ever see that change. So that's good.
And so you still rather, you need to require a good firmware license to be able to kill a bobcat, but then make it in the trapping.
If you want to track, take the trap class, get your trap number. That's where I would say that's the.
And maybe that could be talked about in the discussion when this gets brought to wildlife or that should be something brought up today.
Yeah, I can do that. Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll go ahead, move to the next item. Thank you. So item number 7 is the Utah black bear recommendations. Darren, we'll welcome you back for that as well. Any further clarifications or additional?
No, not really. I mean, we're under the current 3-year cycle for bears. We're not making any recommendations with regards to seasons or permits. But one thing that the Southeastern region wants to do and is recommending, and we're recommending as division, is to make the LaSalle and Dolores Triangle boundaries match the deer boundaries, and so that the bear boundaries would be the same as our deer boundaries. There aren't a whole lot of bears taken out of that Dolores Triangle section, so we're recommending an additional 10 tags on that small unit, 2 in the spring, 6 in the summer, and 2 in the fall. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. I could answer questions.
Thank you. Any questions from the RAC on this item?
They said there's not a lot of bears taken in that area currently.
Yeah, if you look at a heat map or look at locations where bears are taken, they're mostly taken on that LaSalle range to the south. And I think over the last, I think they said 20 years last night, they've only taken 5 out of the triangle. So
Over the last 1 year.
yeah, so it's just not very many. I think it was been a couple in the last couple of
in one
years.
of the other meetings, but I don't specify it was over 20 years.
Yeah, I didn't realize until we were in Southeast last night.
I didn't.
They're biologists. Yeah, no, they're good. So so yeah, I mean, very rarely it does happen, but they feel like there definitely are bears there. It's probably just, people, maybe there's less access and so this way you draw that particular unit, you'd have to hunt there. That's the idea.
And I'm trying to understand why. I mean, it's just like, what's the driving force here to
do this? Couple of things. One is that it looks like there's probably some opportunity being left on the table for people to hunt bears in this area. They're just not hunting it now.
Because it's not, I mean, it's
voluntarily.
Geographically, it's quite small compared to the entire unit, but they're giving another 10 tags to that. So it seems like they're overachieving their tag unit for the size of the geography. So I'm just trying to figure that out here.
Yeah, the first year you do something, you kind of have to look at the history of the area and what you know about it and make an educated guess out of it as to what, look at certain success rates. And so that's what they've done. They said 10 is probably appropriate, understanding that they're not likely to take all 10. And then the plan will adjust as we go forward, depending on how many female they're taking, et cetera. So again, they tried to get this in last year when we did the 3-year cycle and just kind of missed the deadline as far as getting it in that recommendation. So they asked us they'd like to recommend this year, and we support that as a division. So that's really, that's really it.
Will those 10 permits be split up between all the hunts?
Yes,
They
2 in
didn't know
the
what that's gonna
spring,
be.
6 in the summer, and 2 in the fall. So not a lot of people.
I know sometimes when we talk permits, we talk, population numbers and stuff like that. Is there a reason that hasn't been really shared with this Dolores area? I'm just having a hard time understanding.
Yeah, so, we talked about this with cougars and, we decided years ago, we have a rough estimate based on harvest, and we thought, well, let's share that. And I try to drill home that, these absolute numbers are wrong, but they're an absolute minimum based on harvest.
And then we do have the same method for bears. We do have a study going with USU right now, looking at better methods. And that they just finished their third season this summer. So they're in analytical mode, but they're looking at camera traps, et cetera. So hopefully we can get better numbers in the future. But yeah, so right now it's just, biologists have to get a feel and know what those units look like. And then again, they sometimes make an educated guess, and then we adjust adaptively as we move forward. So yeah, just that's kind of how that is.
I have a question. Not so much for you, Chad, but for your husband. How is the bear hunt? I mean, you hunt lions, you hunt bears, or do you see those numbers down? Or you still have fun chasing bears?
You don't say hunt. What you find, sorry.
Thanks, Jared.
No getting.
Yeah, it's kind of like most, lion hunting up there. It's a whole lot of hunting. And not a lot of rigs, not a lot of cutting tracks. And you can find a few tracks maybe around some ponds or something like that, but I still think it's a big majority of the bait sites. I think a lot of them bears hang out around them bait sites, even once the baits are out of there and stuff, they hang out and they're usually far enough off the road. And not a lot of us see it. And I'm not a huge bear hunter. My catch my passion through and through, but I do love to go out in summer and, run around and look for a giant trash panda, but I haven't seen a whole lot. Jason would have more to say. He's a lot more bear oriented than I am, but just in, the units from, the Wasatch this way, I haven't seen a whole lot.
I just wondered, whether it's the same way with the bear that it is with the lion. So maybe it is. Maybe it's the weather, maybe it's the winters, maybe it's, I don't know. Just a question.
Any other questions from the RAC? We'll move to questions from the public. Any questions for Darren? Thanks, Jason.
Jason Binder again. I do have a couple questions. Since they missed the vote on getting this unit split last year in the 3-year management plan, why are we letting them jump in and do it now? Why don't they have to wait until the end of the management plan?
That's a good point. That's certainly something the RAC could consider.
Then the next question is, happen to know the overall harvest this last year on the South?
In the South. I don't off the top of my head, Jason, but I think I don't know if I have the most recent year. When I moved jobs, I don't think I got it. So maybe someone could look it up. I don't know if anyone here got it. Certainly get it for you, Jason.
And the next question would be, what would the sow harvest on the South?
Sow harvest? That'd be the same data.
Overall harvest and sow harvest.
Tell you what, Jason, I can look that up for you and get it to you. So I can't do it right this second, but I'd be happy to get it for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jason.
Alex Lawson. Just wondering, you said there wouldn't be any tag allocation changes. They're gonna go from 104 to 114 with the new Dolores unit.
Right.
So that's
Yeah.
increasing 10 tags.
Yeah, it would be.
For that 3-year management.
Yeah, under this, sorry, Alex, I'm going to talk over you. Yeah, on this recommendation, so that's a good point.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I was just curious. It kind of got brought up. I wasn't quite sure why they weren't in or a lot of people don't hunt in that triangle area.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Foot Cliffs roadless area in there.
So I
It's hard
think
to get
access is a
into.
little harder, yeah.
And then by upping them tags, just trying to open opportunities, push more people in there.
It felt like there's an opportunity there. Yeah. And again, leave it as one big unit. They right now they tend to go one place, but they have to choose. Then they have to go there to hunt. Okay. And maybe, we'll see what kind of interest there is.
Maybe this was in the presentation. Do you know if the spring, are these, is there like specific rules as the spring, as they're not spot and stock, right? It's any any big
That's the hound season, yeah, down there on all three, right, all three seasons. Well, I need to look, I can't remember if it was in the presentation or not, but yeah, it's probably spring and then the bait season and then that fall, that
Yeah,
August.
there's 2 spring, which would be hounds, I think, and then 6 summer, which would be, and then 2 fall, which would hounds.
Yeah. That's right.
Any other questions from the public? We'll move to comments from the public. Any comments?
We had one person who
Thank you.
online commented and they were strongly opposed.
Okay, I think we do have some comment cards on this item. Alex, we'll go ahead and have you go first, and then Jaren, and then John.
We would support the proposal to add the unit, but take the 10 tags from LaSalle's, leaving the number at 104, not increasing the 10 extra tags.
Alex, what's you guys' reasoning behind that?
We started that 3-year plan last year, and if you want to see if your study works, I was going to keep changing it just because it seems better on this side, or we want to do this. Just kind of staying on the study instead of just, oh, this seems to be better for us now, so we'll change it and just keep doing that every time.
Thank you. Jaren.
I have not done that.
That's, oh, sorry. I'll look at the numbers. This one's for 9 as well. And then Jason, you're for 7 as well. Jason will have to go ahead and
Jason Binder. I don't have a big issue with the splitting of the units, but like it's been mentioned, we need to take the tags from the LaSalle unit, put into that unit, since the original tag numbers was for the whole area. Then we need to take 10 tags out of LaSalle to create this new unit if we're going to do it in the middle of the management plan. And to get to Dwayne's question about how the bear hunting's gone, I hunted 7 days this fall with one of my friends to do Wasatch tag. We cut one bear track. It was a little tiny cub like that. I hunted LaSalle's a lot. Years ago, I killed a monster bear on LaSalle. You don't see them big bears anymore, hardly anywhere in the state. Between the tag numbers, we've harvested a lot of sows, pushed the limits to the max on the bear harvest, and the numbers are really showing. Thanks for your time.
thank you, Jason. Okay, we'll move to comments from the RAC.
Yeah, so as I've listened to all these meetings and, I remember going over that 3-year plan last year. I tend to side with what's been shared today. I had kind of the same impression in my mind that, you know what, if we have a plan and we'll ask for changes in different, big game, different things, and they're like, well, let's keep things for the next 2 or 3 years, then we'll review the plan. Me, my personal opinion, I have no problem with them splitting the unit if they take those 10 permits as well, out of the other unit and keep those. And maybe if they were shared more information, maybe I'd feel different, but with the little bit of information we have, that's kind of the way I feel about it. So.
I'd have to say that I agree with you, Nathan, and the commenters. There doesn't seem to be any depredation problems or something that would cause them to increase the tags in that area. And so if there's no further discussion, I'd probably make a motion to allow the area, the Dolores Triangle, to become a unit, but take the 10 tags from the whole LaSalle unit to be able to hunt there. I don't know, that was probably not a very good way to state it, but yeah. So accept the proposal as presented, except take the 10 tags from the larger LaSalle unit to put towards the new Dolores Triangle unit. is what I'm
Second
proposing.
Motion made by Natasha and seconded by Grizz to approve the action, but remove the 10 permits designated for the Dolores Triangle from the total LaSalle Mountain permit numbers. I know Miles has it written down. We'll go ahead and do a vote on that, by the raise of hands. Favor, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, any opposed?
2.
2 opposed. Okay, thank you. Any comments on that?
Just I think if it's an opportunity to increase hunter opportunity in an area that's being underutilized, there obviously, if there's going to be 5 bears killed in this region in 20 years, and the DWR thinks there's bears in it that can be harvested, I don't see a problem with increasing that. To me, you're not changing the overall outcome of the unit harvest strategy because they're not hunting there anyway. So that's
Yeah, pretty much the same, you know, a 10 tag increase just doesn't seem like that big of a increase. And just feel like the folks that looked at this the hardest made this recommendation.
This was approved from the biologists in that area too, wasn't it?
I'm sorry, Sal.
With the biologists in that area, the ones that kind of helped come up with this.
Yeah, they didn't get in quite under the wire last time, but if the RAC feels comfortable, you know, changing the map, but keeping the overall permits, I'm sure that's workable.
And part of that too is just because the 3-year plan and changing things in the middle, like the whole purpose of the 3-year plan was to let it play out and not have changes every year or 6 months, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, motion passes. Any further discussion? Not. Okay, thank you. We will move to item number 8, Predator Control Incentive Amendments, Rule R657-64. Darren, this is
Back.
Well, you're all
This is fairly simple. We in the division, we protect location data across all of our data sets. So, you know, color data, harvest data, you know, location, you know, when you harvest a lion or a bear, you're supposed to keep that location. All that location data is protected data, so it's not subject to public request. And there's a lot of reasons we do that. We've been doing that with our coyote bounty kill locations. But as we looked at the rule, we felt like there was enough vagary in that rule that we want to just make sure we nailed that down and made sure it was consistent. So in practice, we've been doing it. This is just to tighten up the rule language so that those locations will be protected.
Okay, thank you. Questions from the RAC?
You get a lot of people that do grant requests to see where somebody shot a critter like
Not
that.
very often. I think this came up because there was some curiosity, and I think someone asked, and we said, well, no, we don't, that's protected data. And then we looked at the rules, probably ought to make sure this is clear. And it was clear, but maybe not clear enough.
Other questions? We'll move to questions from the public. Any questions you guys have? Any comments? Let's see, electronic comments, anything on this one?
Yeah, no comment.
Yeah, thanks. Comments from the public here today? Comments from the RAC, if they're moved to a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Thanks, Adam.
Gotta make it.
Tell us.
Yeah, make it.
What is
I'll
it?
make a motion to approve it as stated.
Second.
A motion to approve as stated by Adam, second by Jordan. We'll take a vote. Rather than
Raise it high. There we go. Thank you.
unanimous. Okay, thanks. Motion passes. Item number 9, cooperative agreements for big game or turkey rules DWR 657-74. There any additions or
I do
clarifications?
have, let me find it really quick. I do have one small tweak that you'd like to
Oh,
make.
thank you.
It's different from the packet. It's pretty small. Let's see. It's trying to, so they can see it. So, in the packet, the wording in that first bullet is what we sent out to all the RACs and the board, and the important changes that cultivated crop is routinely irrigated or routinely mechanically or manually harvested. In order to be consistent with all our other rules and the definition of cleared and planted land, that should have been an and rather than an or. And so we're recommending that we make that change. But other than that, I'm happy to take questions.
One of your comments in one of the other acts, you said that the trial area was one of the Uinta Basin was one of the Northeastern region.
Yes.
The Northeastern region. So you guys have already have ideas where you want to try this then?
Yeah, so we've asked our landowner specialists to start reaching out and seeing, this is, we feel like we'd rather be proactive with this kind of approach, and we've got folks that are supporting, especially deer, turkeys to a certain extent, but the deer is really our focus. And, is there a way that we can proactively go and say, hey, let's come to an agreement. You won't take does, you won't claim damage, but we'll pay you X amount. And so that's what this is about. So this rule allows for that process to take place. We have done a little bit of legwork already in this region, in the southern region, to just talk to landowners and say, well, what would that look like? What would you need? What are we talking about? And so the reason we want to just kind of do a pilot at first is we know we're probably missing some things, and so we'll handle a lot of the details in a policy and put real specifics in the actual contract between the landowner and the division, as far as what do we need to see over time, what's the amount going to be, when can it be reviewed, can one person pull out at any time, one or the other, so those kinds of things. But this is one of the reasons where we'll be trying that, and this would be something the division would initiate. So it's not like a program where landowners could apply. It'd be something that we'd recognize a need, and then we'll approach landowners and see if we could work something out.
Is some of the funding, I think I heard maybe in another act, you said it was from the Pittman Robinson?
It could be. One of the things that we had something in our depredation rule for years and years that called conservation lease. We've never used it. So the concept was there, and the legislature, and it's in statute, the legislature contemplated potentially doing something like this. And as we started discussing, I realized this isn't necessarily always a depredation. Depredation tends to be after the fact, the damage occurs, and you go and try to clean things up the best you can within the rules. And we want to go further than that. So this then becomes more of a population level program. And as long as it's approved in the grant, the federal aid grant, then we could conceivably use Pittman Robertson dollars for this.
Okay, so along those lines, I mean, I don't know all the ins and outs and maybe the laws of it, but I was just wondering, since some of it is federal dollars, if it could also be used for sandhill crane. And I know like the division doesn't manage sandhill cranes or the permit numbers, but I know that's can be something that becomes an issue here and maybe in a few other places in the state. But I didn't know if that, or like maybe it would be a way that you could work with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to mitigate those depredation issues.
I think there's a lot of good news. Pheasants came up last night in Southeastern.
Okay.
I see this as an adaptive process. Let's start here. Let's start small and get our head wrapped around this. And so right now we're talking about big game and turkeys. But yeah, I don't know why any of that could be discussed. Well, yeah, I say big game is probably not ever. I mean, obviously, if you're overprotective, you're not going to be paying someone to throw more elk. There may be somewhere in the state. Someone said, well, why don't we cut elk out of this? There may be somewhere where, but I can't foresee that. But other things like bison or pronghorn would be. So that's why we just did big game in general. But obviously, we're going to use common sense, and we're not going to manage against our management plans.
And I think this could really benefit other species as also, like migratory birds, pollinator species, you know, depending on when like the crop is paid for or left standing, but I think it's overall a beneficial option.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Chad, so did I hear you right? You said that the DWR has to see the problem, that the landowners can't come to you?
We, well, it won't be like you fill out an application and it'd be like, you know, if you know who your landowner person is, it helps you, you know, with wildlife issues, that's a conversation that you all ought to have. And the way that we envision it is that our folks are going to look in the region and say, you know, what's another way we could potentially grow deer? And you know, if somebody's got a bunch of deer in their crop and we could buy their last cutting, they just leave it there for the deer. And then once the deer move off, you know, they can obviously cut the residue and do what they need to manage the field. That might be a win-win. And again, you know, it depends on a willing participant. You know, if the landlords like that, rather just have the permits than, you know, enforce them. But that's kind of how we envision the program.
Yeah, the question I have, whether I heard you right, because it ought to be a cooperative thing between the landowner and the DWR, which it has in the past.
And the details will be worked out in the actual agreement on a case-by-case basis. So everybody's on the same page.
It's the same as they mentioned in the elk. It probably was 60, you don't know, it was really well done, I think.
Yeah.
And the deer population on the spring fields and the fall field, you know, and I know the fishing game have stepped up and have done a good thing, I believe.
Yeah.
They just need to keep doing it.
So we just want to be able to make some management decisions and then approach folks based on that rather than just have a flood of applications that we have to evaluate.
The idea sounds great, but I guess I am trying to figure out where the funding's all going to come from. So we talked about Pittman Robertson. Where are the other sources? Or would that be sufficient?
Yeah, so it's a work in progress, but obviously, so, you know, we'll need to determine that in detail. We're actually going to be, if this passes the board, then the next step is to meet with our financial agency to figure out how the financial side would work. And then we'll identify as a division where some of that funding can come from. I could foresee, again, if we do use PR money, that requires a match. So we'd be looking for that other 25% other places. I'm sure there are
PR money, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, Pittman Robertson. So that's the excise. Sorry, yeah, I shouldn't talk in acronyms. But that's, you know, that requires some match, and I'm sure some of our partners would be interested in some of these programs as well. So we'll have to look.
There's a scenario where the funding that, and then I know, like, I understand you said we don't really know exactly where it's going to come from, but is there a scenario where, say, the same pot of money that somebody is applying for a WRI project or something is now competing with this?
I think we'd have to, again, you know, as we look at these on a case-by-case basis, we need to make some value judgments about, you know, what, and we do that in WRI now. You know, we evaluate projects. I think that'll still be part of the process. Yeah.
Just one question. I think it's a great opportunity to grow deer, but part of this also is about hunter opportunity. How do you foresee, you know, hunters benefiting other than more deer on the landscape? You know, in our area, there's a lot of our private land is, I mean, miles and miles from the forest.
That might be it.
That
might be it. It might, you know, if you're taking 80 or 90 does out of the fields. Does that impact the mountain? That's something we're going to have to evaluate. So we wanted to make sure that the hunters benefit somehow. And you know, again,
sometimes I can see it
Yeah,
hurting, because there's a place that they don't have to leave because.
right, yeah, you may
they're
harbor
paying,
them.
They're harboring them out.
Yeah, I mean,
So I'm just wondering how you perceive that in the future, benefiting hunters.
like I said, this is gonna be an adaptive process. Yeah, that's why we're starting small. We want to kind of see what this looks like. Maybe pick the low hanging fruit at first, but yeah.
Would there be any requirement for public access?
Potentially,
Access?
not, wouldn't be required, but would definitely be part of the discussion. And it might be worth it to, as far as access to the private property, if those deer contribute to the wider population, then maybe that's not necessary.
You're looking more where we got a springtime thing where some of these guys will get several hundred deer come on in the spring and then they eat it and move back up on the mountain. And that's what you're looking at more, not necessarily fall time. It's generally generally when this is when it's in the winter time and in the springtime is what this will complicate.
I see that.
More of a tool.
But maybe you buy, like say you buy that, whatever the damage, instead of just paying for the damage per head, maybe you buy the entire first crop. And the landowner can still cut what's there, but he tolerates the deer until they leave. And then, goes on down the road. And again, I'm not a farmer, so we'll rely on their expertise to tell us if it's worth it.
Another tool for your degradation.
Yeah.
One thing I can see here with that, and I know they, purchase fields in the spring and the fall, is you're creating a resident herd.
Yeah.
And so, like if they go back to the fork of the mountain and you're providing them feed every spring, every fall, you're gonna develop a resident herd.
And maybe in that case, it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense because that's the same problem you had with elk in the Inland Basin. And now they went in and tried to squash that. You might have to think about.
Yeah.
A thought to come on chat.
No, I agree, and we've discussed that too, and obviously, these are all, again, we're gonna rely on our local folks to make recommendations for what makes sense. They want us to know the situation.
Good questions. Any other questions from the RAC?
There is enough ambiguity that I would hope this would be discussed in the future once we kind of start to see what it develops to.
Yeah, there've been a couple of racks that have asked the board to have us come back, kind of update everybody on how it's going, and I'm sure we'll be coming back to tweak this rule in the future too, as we get some experience.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the public? Any electronic comments on this one?
Just one thing was control on this subject.
Okay, thank you. Any comments from the public on this one? Those are lost, aren't they? Right here.
Jaron Hansen, representing the Utah Farm Bureau. Utah Farm Bureau supports this program and appreciates the division's forward-thinking approach to partnering with Utah landowners and supporting wildlife. As part of my job with the Utah Farm Bureau is I go around the eastern part of the state. I meet with producers and I hear their concerns, and then we try and work on programs with them. And in the last couple of years that I've been here, one of the things that has come up more than once is, man, DNR is just, they're hard to work with. They don't ever come to the table, and they're reactive, not proactive. And it's really awesome to see, with the elk program that happened a year or two ago, and now with this one as well, they're forward thinking, and they're willing to come to the table and be proactive in that. We really appreciate that. Along with that, we appreciate also the comments of like the resident herd, and we're taking those into consideration. But we see this as, if you don't want to go with this program, that's fine. You can still have your depredation tags. You can still, it's not forced on you. But I know a lot of producers that they just factor into the equation of, I'm going to have deer on my field this year, and that's just part of it. And so if we can try and make them whole, that's great. And in the meantime, the rest of the agricultural community looks at that and they say, oh man, maybe we'll be a little bit more tolerant towards wildlife and towards DNR. I just think it's a great program. Thank you.
John Bear here with SFW. I know the director's office has taken a few
hits the last couple of weeks for a lot of things, but I'm telling you this, and they really deserve an attaboy for it. We are really excited about this, this program launch and, you know, the opportunity to have sportsmen work with the division and with agriculture, find a way to make wildlife an asset instead of a liability. We need to make this work. We need to really keep an eye on this and flesh it out and tweak it anytime we need to you know, help the landowners, especially landowners that are maybe bordering critical wind range, that when there's a dry year or an extra heavy snow year, they get a little more wildlife, a few more deer on them. If there's something we can do to help them out that is going to save some deer from depredation permits, that is a win-win-win. It helps the ag, it helps the sportsmen, it helps the wildlife. And, you know, super excited about this, 100% behind it. And we really appreciate the division's forward thinking on this and willingness to, you know, try to head off some future problems and solve some long-standing, maybe relationship issues between the division and the agriculture community and the sportsmen. And, you know, we really view this as a win. Appreciate, you know, Darren, he's been a trooper this round. This has not been an easy round of RACs, but I think he's done a really good job. We're really excited about this program.
Thank you, John. I think that was all the comment cards about comments from the RAC.
I have a comment. To me, this kind of reads like using public funds to create a bait pile to hunt over. I know, and I guess I meant to lead with, I think it's a good idea. So I would say that should either limit the tags, the landowner tags, or allow public access as part of this.
As a former depredation specialist, this would help a guy working depredation out in the time, especially during the springtime when you have some places that have, there's some places that have 500 head of deer on them here in the basin, maybe. And so this would really help on that end. And I don't see this as being this deer coming in the fall. I think being more of a keeping deer alive through the winter and in the springtime is where I see this benefit versus worrying about hunting on it and that type of deal. I would like to see access if it is more during the fall, but I see this being a win for just being able to keep deer alive during the winter and being more tolerable on that private land, where depredation guy doesn't have to be out there trying to put fire M80s out all night long to scare the deer and stuff off. It'd just be a lot helpful for them on that end, I think. So.
Yeah, my thoughts have been, we've just been talking about how, you know, what kills deer, but we do know, maybe instead of talking about what's killing deer, let's try to feed the deer. And that's, again, I feel like that is a win-win between the landowners and the deer. And we're talking about deer here, not elk in most cases, right? So I feel like that's a good thing. Any other comments?
Sorry, just maybe one question or one clarification, that if there's somebody that's enrolled or part of this, their depredation tags would be non-existent, right?
Yeah, this would be in lieu of any other program, so it wouldn't be a CWD or a program. Yeah, so, and what Chris raises a good point, you know, it means that comes off the depredation work list. And again, you know, the agreement's gonna have to be good enough for the landowner to tolerate that, so that's part of it.
I'm great. I mean, I'm fine with letting them load. I think it's a great thing as long as there's some benefit to the hunters and the public. So however that looks, and I trust the division with, you know, them determining that as they're talking with the landowners and looking at their situation and looking at these resident herds. You know, hopefully they're going to take that into consideration, and that's something I have. You know, I exactly love it. So.
You know, as long as the division is jumping to work with the landowners appropriately, I'm coming to this from the perspective of agriculture and things. And, there's been, thousands and thousands upon millions of dollars invested in places to make them grow, to create feed. To be honest, it's created a lot of habitat and a lot of diverse feed for these animals. And I'm definitely long past cussing the wildlife, because cussing it doesn't really do any good for anybody. It's here. I think as long as the investment that has been made is respected. I can specifically name, and personally, I'd love a little more time to hunt in my life, but I can name a couple of instances where because of the irresponsibility of an individual, cost tens of thousands of dollars, and it wasn't necessary. It wasn't, it wasn't a purposeful mistake that was made. It was negligence. It was, but I think that the sound of the program is fantastic, as long as the investment of the landowner is well respected through the process.
One more comment on this. I think it's a really good deal that the DNR is proposing here, especially if they'll step up and make it worthwhile to the farmer and the rancher. If it's pennies on the dollars, then they're going to get a little kickback. But from what you're saying, sir, it sounds like it's well thought out, and it's going to be something that's going to benefit the agricultural side. So I'm all for it.
I'll make a motion.
Could I ask a quick question? So like if you wanted it to benefit other species, or, like sandhill crane or anything, is that something you would come back later on, or are you encompassing other species under a big game umbrella?
I think in order to pay specifically for that, we need to come back.
Okay.
But obviously, if some of these actions kind of benefit multiple species. So,
Yeah.
So it's probably just like WRI. It's probably depends on the project and the place. And sorry,
Okay.
I try not to be too long-winded, but yeah.
Okay. I was just curious. All right. Thank you.
All right, I'll make a motion that we accept the cooperative agreements for big game and turkey rule R657-74 as presented, and ask the wildlife board to have an update be given back to the regions to see how it's doing, to kind of give an update on it.
Motion made by Grizz.
I'll second that.
Mr. Davies. Go ahead and call for a vote. All in favor?
Can I ask just one question? Clarification with that, like, is that yearly, on a yearly basis, or like as far as an update? We may need to specify that.
Yeah, I could do yearly. That'd be good.
On an annual basis.
On an annual basis, yeah.
Okay, so let me repeat it real quick. Motion was made to accept the presentation on the cooperative agreements for big game or turkey rule and turkey, right? Rule R657-74 with a request to turn in or to report on an annual basis. Okay. We'll vote again. All in favor? And any opposed? Gordon, do you want to talk to that?
Just to kind of reiterate what I said, like I think this is a good idea, but anything that looks like privatizing access to wildlife, I just disagree with. So, maybe that can be something that is ironed out going forward. But like I mentioned, considering public access or not being able to hunt directly on these areas.
Thank you. Okay. I believe that wraps up our meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn?
And a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Grizz, second.
I'll second it.
Adam second. Thank you. Thank you
Vote.
everyone.
Unanimous vote? Yeah, okay, cool.
Must be the seat over here, Natasha.